So I built a Pondless Waterfall, and I put together a bunch of little videos that I made along the way. This is a non-professional video made by a non-professional landscaper. However, if you're like me, there's some stuff along the way in this video that you'll find useful if you are thinking about doing a project like this. Hope you enjoy it. Today is March the 3rd. It is a Tuesday. And as usual, I am forgetting to do a before video instead of just an after. This is what was in the ground. And here is what I am beginning. I have dug out the end. So that is going to be the collection point for the water. I'll be putting a piece of slate over the top of this, and the pump's going to go down in there. I'll film that maybe next. And rock's going to go on top of all of this, so the water will go down in there. This is all going to be filled in. And then we're going to build up an area here, and the water is going to There's going to be a water flow down, go into this reservoir, this hidden reservoir. I'm going to put a pipe right along here that pumps it back up. Come out here and get a shot of what it looks like from this angle, because this should be, once it gets done, this will be a nice angle to view it from. Here's some of our equipment. This is the pump, which supposedly puts out 800 gallons per hour. This is the hose. This will be our little waterfall thing that'll be mounted at the top. This is used to fill in around the stone to keep the water flowing. And this is called underlayment. You put this down first. It's a thick cloth that eventually will be protecting the rubber stuff. This stuff's heavy. That's the rubber stuff. That'll be laid down, and all the water will flow on top of that, and we'll put rocks on top of that. So it's the next day, February 4th. I've put the black liner part of the way in. I actually cut it in half. It's big, but I've got it fitted down into the hole here. And I think, as I've thought about before, I'm going to curl around this way a little bit, give it a kind of a natural curl here. I've broken out the pool liner. This is big, so I don't want to cut it yet. I'm thinking about maybe rolling it up, and then gradually unrolling it over the area. So I've got the 2 milk crates down in there, room for the pump hose to come through. I've started filling in some rocks. Of course, I got the liner down in there too. I can't remember what the last thing I showed. Got the liner all rolled up here so that I can gradually work from this direction up towards this direction. The layment is cut, and it's okay to cut it. It is protecting the liner from the rocks. That's a little confusing. The underlayment on the left is protecting the rubber liner. It goes under the rubber liner and protects from any rocks or any roots coming up from the bottom and damaging the rubber liner, which would cause a leak. Anyway, I'm just starting to fill it in, and it's going to come to look, I think it's going to look pretty natural. This large piece of slate is going to cover over the pump so that I can remove that slate when necessary to get down to the pump. But right now I'm going to cut off some of this pool liner here so I can rock it in. It's starting to come together a little bit. I want to talk just a little bit about, this is a Pondless Waterfall. However, it's a bit of a hybrid because I did put 2 areas where the water is a little bit deeper. And the reason that I did that is because the lights that I purchased were high quality but inexpensive, and they are deeper than the other light fixtures that I could find. So I actually built the water feature with the light, with areas so that I could have enough water to put the light down below water, so that the light would shine up through the water and up through the waterfall and create a better effect. What I'm doing, I'm starting to fill in along the sides here. I'm going to make sort of a gradual fall into here. I've cleaned up all of the excess plastic. Start coming around here. So what I'm thinking here is that there's going to be a plant here, and then we'll roll off the ground into the rocks after that. So a planting area. And then I'm going to make this also a planting area. My thought right now is to take one of these, or half of one of these, and put it right there so that the leaves overcome part of this slate. I think once I get all of this in shape, I'm going to build the big slope that's going to go down there. April 1st, we're Wednesday afternoon. I am digging up this plant. I've got approximately 5 inches of width and probably about 7 inches depth to deal with. I'm going to put it in this hole, creating this space, so we'll have that plant, which looks like that plant. I'm going to put it in here so it'll cover over this area. Made a metal spacer here to cover up the back end of the spill device. And then I'm going to put another plant in here. I'm going to build this in with dirt and rock. We may put a plant or two. We've got some of these plants to work with. Let's see what it looks like before we get the plant in. That's where the water will spill down. Took a square piece of slate and cut off the kind of angle with it with the grinder. Also filled in this area in here with dirt to help it out. That's where we're at. So here's what it looks like with the plant. Pretty big, but I don't want to cut it back yet. It's covering a lot of stuff. I kind of like it. August 2nd. It's the morning. I'm trying to get this light fixture centered right. I think the water's going to come out of there. And I don't want to aim it too much at the rocks or too much at the sky, so I used some foam. Just decided to use the foam to hold it down in place, and didn't want to stay steady while the foam was drying, so I put tape on it. I like the water level, the way it comes right up to the bottom of the rock there. Not bad for halfway. Oh, yeah, right, I hooked up something. Let's see if I can show you. Of course, you can't see what they look like in daylight, but you get an idea. April 2nd, here's our first look at our lights. A lot of water flowing. We can control the amount of water that flows. Water disappears down under the rocks there and is pumped back up. So we changed things up. There was just too much water splashing out. Overnight, we lost a couple of gallons of water just from splashing. So I've now added this new fascia, and then I'm going to cement it or foam it in place. And Saturday afternoon, I have expanded that out a little bit to allow the water to trickle down a little more instead of so much fall. We continue to develop this thing. We've added a little more. We decided it was just too loud, and so we've added this. The water's not running now, obviously, but we've added these extras in here so that the water just kind of trickles down rather than falling down. When it was falling down, it was too loud. Of course, I've added these new rocks over here. This is still developing. The light is underneath that big rock now, and I've ordered a second light to go over here. We have had some challenges with losing water. I don't know that we're ever going to solve that. I think there's some water that just gets lost to evaporation and what have you. I wanted to video this real quick too. This is the backside that I am building in now. I'm getting ready to fill that in with potting soil and then put those guys in this area. And I hope to put some plants in this area too, potentially, or perhaps right down in there. Go ahead and fill the rest of this in with some dirt and then put rocks on top of this. Now here's some progress that we've made today. Starting to fill this in. I think I'm going to wait to fill this in because I've got another light coming. I'll probably be running the wire through that area, so I don't want to put too much in there. April 18th, time for a little update. Get ready to move some stuff around. I think I'm going to put this over here. It was there, right there. We're putting in a bench. This plant's going to go somewhere over here. I think I want to use this in part to block some of the electronics, to shield the electronics. Still working on that, and I think I want to put some plants in here, at least some moss. I'm also going to get some slate in, take this and put it in this area once I get this plant moved out of the way. And a couple additional pieces. Put a foundation down for that and then covered it with rocks. Still haven't begun to work this area and get some plants. Did get some plants from Lowe's, so we'll get to working on those. I'm going to be filling all of this work in. I've worked this driftwood into here. I think it's going to be really pretty when I get all this filled out. I'm going to put some moss in there. Since the last video segment, I came in and finished off all of this. This had black plastic. So I've put in some greenery here. That's actually moss from what is our backyard. We've put some, this is some form of moss from Lowe's. We've filled in the edges of that. Let me just show that real quick. To show how I worked the driftwood in. I planted that part of the driftwood, and then I filled in and did some planting here on this side of the driftwood. Oh yeah, and we added the new light. And tonight's the first night we'll get a look at that. So I am going to dig up this area. I've already taken this many rocks out. I'm going to dig up this little area here where the second milk crate is. I'll just show you that. I've noticed that a lot of people like to come up and observe the fountain, and they like to stand right here because it just, you know, when it's all covered evenly, it just looks like a place where you could stand closer. But that underneath that is the milk crate that's turned upside down. So I've decided to pull up all the rocks out of it and reinforce it so that if someone comes to stand over the top of it, they don't inadvertently fall through the milk crate. Here's the exposed grade. Again, this is the bottom of a milk crate. This is an idea how many rocks were filled in that location. Take a jigsaw here and cut the bottom out of another milk crate. Well, that was quite easy to do. Got a nice smooth cut. Always helps to have a sharp blade. Don't think I'm going to worry a lot about connecting it to the other one. I think that'll do the trick. And we're back to where we were before. Now we've got a little extra support there if anybody wants to stand in this area. We don't have to worry about it falling through. So we're about 3 weeks out now. I've noticed that the water wants to turn a little bit green. So far, to experiment with it, I've used a cap full of bleach, which knocks down the algae. I figure there's probably a total of something on the order of 12 to 14 gallons of water in this system. So I'll continue to experiment. We want the water to be palatable to the little frogs that like to jump in and out and the birds that like to come in and bathe. Also, I've added some lighting, landscape lighting. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. Plants are doing well. They're growing in nicely. These guys are really happy. The water plant is growing like crazy. I did run all of the wiring underneath the driftwood and the plants and along the side here, and I built this informal little cover out of some sheet metal. Painted it green. This is a roll of sheet metal that I bought from Lowe's, Rust-Oleum paint, and got a little, this is power for the pump, and this is power for the landscape transformer, and the transformer has a little smart switch on it that was white. I painted it green, and it turns the lighting on at prescribed times of day. So I've pumped out the water. I put a bunch of bleach, I say a bunch. I put about 3/4 of a cup in there and really killed off all the algae. And I let it run for an hour or so. And then I pumped out all the water. I used an old pump from our previous pond and connected a hose to that. Pumped it all out. Here is the new pump, or the one that we've been using. To protect this, first of all, I want to show you it's got an adjustable front on it, so you're supposed to be able to control the flow, but regardless of what you do, I found it has a minimal effect on the flow, not like what you might hope. So I came up with an alternative way to control the flow. I cut a hole drilled a hole, 2 holes. I experimented and got up to 2 holes in the side of the supply hose. Now this actually connects into there, and to keep the water from spurting out when it gets a little bit low, I took a funnel and cut the top of the funnel and screwed it onto there so that the water sprays into the side of the funnel. It's when it's mounted, it's like this, so it sprays into the side of the funnel and then redirects it back down to be recirculated, but it cuts off pressure going to the waterfall and allows me to cut down on the flow of water coming out of there. And this pump at 800 gallons per hour is more than enough for this water feature. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is this filter system. This is part of an older filter system that was in the previous pond, and I didn't really like it that much, and I didn't feel it was suitable for what we're doing here. So I've come up with a hybrid to protect the pump. I have connected it. It is very effective, and so far that's the system I've come up with. That is liable to change. A quick shot of what the pump looks like in the reservoir area. And also a small note that I cut a ridge here so that the large piece of slate can lay on top of this without pinching the electrical hose or the water supply hose. So I've got my cap back in place and the rocks placed around. I wanted to mention something. It is really nice to have that old pump. I can't tell you how many times in the process of doing this that I wanted to get the water back out of this system, and using that old pump and just attaching a hose to the end of it so that the water could run off allowed me to suck the water out of this pond reasonably quickly, and it was a very helpful way to do it. One of my favorite rocks is this one, because if I remove this, then I have access to my pond and my reservoir. I can put water in there. It's pretty easy to see when it gets filled up. And so far, you know, on the order of every, I don't know, 5 to 7 days, depending on rain and stuff like that, I have to put more water in it. Today we're going to use lake water. We've got a pump coming off the lake, and then in a day or two I'm hoping to get the bacteria tablets in, and we're going to test those and see if it'll keep the pond clean. November 27th, we're getting some more green. I purchased some of this One Fix off of Amazon. I put the first amount in there on the 21st, so it's been about 7 days. And a week before that, I flushed the water out. I knocked it out with some chlorine, but I used lake water this time to fill it, and went for about a week without putting anything in it. And then I added the One Fix, and it says to use it every 3 days, which I didn't do because it was looking pretty good. But over the last couple of days, it's started getting green again. Although that's interesting, it's a little bit more of a brown color than green. So anyway, we're going to try some more of this One Fix and see what happens. We'll use it every 3 days as recommended until we get rid of this stuff. June 4th. Just changed the filtering on the pump, got it back pumping. It's now turning very brown instead of green. I have not added any more of the stuff that's designed to balance out the algae, but it's definitely turning brown. I don't know if I should add some bleach or just leave it the way that it is. I can say that the birds and the frogs and the squirrels and the chipmunk or two seem to be happy and come over and visit regularly, so I'm a little stumped as to what I'm going to do at this point. June 6th, I finally got tired of all the brown. I put about 3/4 cup of bleach in there. I've been sitting here beside the fountain so no birds or anything come along. It really cleans it out. It's been about 20 minutes. I'll probably leave it in there for another 20 minutes. Gets all of the brown stuff off, and then I'm going to completely drain the entire system and then refill it with lake water and put some more of the algae eating stuff in there and see how we do. June 18th, we're a number of days out from the last time we changed the water out. I did not put any more bleach, and I did not put any more of the bacteria that eats the algae. I let it go, and this is the results. We're getting some brown buildup, and it's not bad. I did just change the filter, and I timed it. I was curious how long it would take, and from the point where I cut power to the point where I plugged power back in, it took almost exactly 5 minutes. So I think I'm going to be okay with that. Every week and a half I'll change the filter, or perhaps every 2 weeks. I'll clean the filter. It takes 5 minutes. At this point, I think I'm probably going to add a little bit of bleach again. I've been happy with the number of creatures that visit: birds, chipmunks, squirrels, and frogs. And I think a little bit of bleach in the water is not harming anyone. So that's probably, as of right now, I think that's what I'm going to stick with. Of course, I'm open to learn new things. That's where we're at.